Good afternoon, and welcome in to another Titan Talk. It's Friday. I've already forgotten the date. January 9th. There you go. I just saw it on the calendar there. But it's time to go over our balance overview, and that's why we've got the wonderful PonPon joining us today.
Yeah.
How you doing, Pom?
Good. I was saying that like my can looked like it was a product placement for Dr. Pepper, and there's actually not a way I could really. Here, you get the nutrition info. It felt like a product placement where I was positioned.
Over the years, we have definitely gone through the don't put stuff on camera, put stuff on camera. And we've seen it. We don't care. At this point, it is what it is. But welcome in everyone tuning into the Titan Talk today. Like I said, we're going to go through balance. Pon, I guess we start off with, items. This is kind of a balance overview, just as a heads up for everybody.
Yeah.
And as a heads up, if you head over to smiteprime.com right now, you can already see the balance overview and read along with us as well. We're going to go through it here. And the official notes will be out on Tuesday alongside the rest of the patch with Discordia. But this is kind of an overview of what to expect to see. And there may still be changes that come in before Tuesday as a caveat there.
Yep.
Let's have a little look at the overview notes. So, PonPon, I should have put this on the screen first because I'm stupid. But base level, what is kind of the goals we're looking at in this update?
Yeah, so we basically had a long patch cycle, right, over the break. We got people playing just a whole bunch over a longer period of time than we normally do. So we kind of got a few more high-level goals of things that people found like these things are too strong.
Yeah.
Especially after you change the Conquest map and remove the side lanes.
Sure.
It seems like junglers tend to be doing really, really well. Solo laners are getting a bit tired of this thing when Lash Beta just being the continual thing overall. So we're just looking at targeting a lot of the things that are the current pain points in the way that we could do it from when we're coming back from break, right? Like we don't have as much bandwidth and we do more intensive changes, but we can do some targeted ones. And then also just looking at things that are underperforming. So like one thing is solo lane diversity. Obviously Same When Lash is driving a lot of that, but we also just see a lot of gods just kind of fall off the radar. Some targeted buffs at those types of gods to make sure that there's a good solo lane diverse pool.
Okay, so main goal is kind of hitting some of the pain points with junglers being a bit stronger now. Lifesteal being a bit of an issue is the kind of the goal, and then also solo lane diversity.
Yeah, and I think one other that's kind of like an off the wall one is we had this kind of long plan of making attack damage more of a stat that was specifically for carries.
Yeah.
One thing that like is kind of weird as a carry is a lot of the high strength items you could get are buffing your auto attacks and your abilities. And so like Dagger Frenzy is a really good example of like rushing that, which is very, very good because it gave you strength, which also helped your abilities, and it gave you a really good attack speed stim. Now it's going to be more on attack damage so that like, it's still going to be good in the situation you're using it before, but it's not going to be so free for all your abilities. And we think that's a better spot for a lot of hunter items to be. It also means that some items that were previously strength are now just attack damage, which means that mage ADCs can flex them in a lot more easily. Like Fatalis, for example, I don't believe has any strength on it anymore. So it's actually just pretty flexible. Well,
we'll go through the items now. We're going to start things off with Bumba's Dagger in the jungle, which we'll see a nerf here. We're going to be decreasing the adaptive strength of this item from 15 to 10 and decrease the area bonus damage to jungle monsters from 20% to 15%. Additionally, Bumba's Cudgel will also see the nerf, decrease adaptive stat from 15 to 10 and decreased damaged buff attack deals to jungle monsters 90 to 70.
Yeah, this is just going to slow down junglers a little bit. This is going to make their ganks a little bit less effective. This is going to make their clear a little bit slower. We think that, at least for now, taking the edge off the junglers will probably be the best call for like how we can more quickly address this. Yeah. We might overall look further along to like, does jungle farm, the amount of farm they actually get in the jungle need to be adjusted based on how the map has changed. This also slightly addresses a little bit of carries running it with less strength. Yeah. There's less reason to get it over something that's more like a Death Toll or like a Leather Cowl. So
next up on this list I have here is Sanguine Lash. We mentioned this as well, a target towards solo lane. For the most part, we've seen the majority run their decreased strength from 35 to 25. This now only damages gods, and the cooldown of this item has been increased from 40 seconds to 60 seconds.
Yeah, so a lot of adjustments here. Obviously, less strength means it's just less impactful in trades. Now only damaging gods means that your ability for it to help kind of clear the wave. That might not be a major component of it, but that will impact its ability to like contribute, as well as also contesting the fire imps. That's going to be a pretty meaningful adjustment. Yeah. And then the longer cooldown means you're not dealing with, essentially at 40 seconds, that's almost every wave. Now it's basically going to be every 2 waves you have to deal with this kind of active effect.
I know people are expecting like just never into the ground. I never want to see it again, but we don't want that for items in general. We do want the diversity.
Yeah, we like the diversity, and we also think that like this is a pretty substantial nerf. We could have gone harder, obviously, we always could, but like a cooldown increase to like an active item of this, like as percentage wise, we'd see obviously do something really impactful. 10 strength is not a minor nerf, and then the fact that it only damages gods, I think when people feel that in game are going to be like, oh yeah, I can see now the trade off. And there's a little bit more reason now to go mystical male, because that will actually help you contest those things more effectively, contest the wave more effectively.
Scythe on this list as well. The lifesteal changes here is going to be a nerf. We're going to see 4% to 3%. Additionally, the adamantite sickle, the lifesteal tier 2 of this is getting nerfed from 5% to 4%, and the decreased bonus strength was 15 is now going to be 10. And then on top of that, the Reaper decreased the strength of this from 65 to 55 and fixed an issue where this was not triggering off of assists properly, and fixed an issue where the assist could trigger on death. You did not get an assist on it in rare cases.
Yeah, so the fixes will probably largely cancel each other out. Reaper gets a 10 power or 10 strength nerf, and then just kind of like the curve as you curve into lifesteal is getting weaker. It also gives us more flexibility on number of nerfs in the future, because we try to, when we can, keep items giving you the right amount of stats as you upgrade them. We will make the exception if we can, but we also think that there's just room for that curve to be weaker.
And then the next on here is just Mystical Mail. We fixed a description issue where it did not describe its anti-shield capabilities.
Yep.
But including talking about a bit more of a physical aspect, well, I guess it's a magical aspect, Spectral Visage. This did get leaked. Obviously, it was on PTS. People have already noticed it. But a new item to the game that's technically already there, but this is a magical version of Spectral Armor. And this is going to be Spectral Visage, costing 2,300, 35 magical protections alongside 400 health. And enemies will have 25% reduced attack speed, deal 25% damage, reduced damage from critical strikes, and does not stack with Spectral Armor, which is the key thing there.
Yeah, so this is... I don't like this as just my designer. My designer like instincts is I don't necessarily like that this is where we are, but it's one of those things where it's like magical damage crit dealers is something we've enabled, but we haven't really enabled a great counter to that.
That's fair.
There are other things we could be doing to provide solutions there, but they're a bit more involved.
Right.
And that's been one of those things with like I want to circle back on this so I could do a more direct approach, but it's been long enough now that clearly like we just haven't had the time to be able to do that pass. So this is a good temporary solution. I'd rather this be in the game, like the what's like the enemy of good is perfect or something like.
Sure.
That's the saying, yeah. Right? I'm not gonna get perfect at saying the saying either, right? This is good enough for now. I do want to revisit this because I don't like this as a long-term answer, but as a good temporary solution to let you protect against magical damage, critical strike dealers.
So it's one of the solutions short-term, and long-term we'll continue to explore and evolve on that too. Cool. Spectral Armor does not stack with Spectral Visage. Just a note on that. It would be 50% reduction. I think everyone would just get this against crit the whole time.
Yeah, it'd be really good to stack.
Essentially, as a tank.
800 health, 35 omniprots, and minus 50% attack speed is already probably good before you add the crit stuff.
And then we'll move on to Ancile here, or Ancile, Ancile, whichever way you want to say it. This is getting a shift. We're going to be removing the attack damage taken reduction from 10% to 0%, but also removing taking damage reduced cooldown 2 seconds to 0. Also, sorry about the break here, but increased magical protection 45 to 55, so an increase in protections and an increase in health by 50, but you're going to see some of the other stuff come away.
Yeah, this item kind of had some mixed messaging when it first came out because it was meant to be a little bit of the anti-magical carry type item because it gave minus attack damage taken.
Yeah.
But it also had this effect that had some really cool synergies with abilities, and it had mixed messaging. It was really, Ancile, that damage was really meant to be a little bit of the anti-crit, anti-carry type thing. So now that we actually have Spectral Visage there more directly doing this, let's just focus Ancile on what it's supposed to be good at, which is just give it some better stats and let it that active effect be really good.
Next on the list is Manchu Bow. No longer builds from axe, now builds from bow and 650 gold. We have removed the strength. It was 10, it's now 0, but we've added attack damage to this.
Yeah, so this is the start of us adjusting a lot of items that previously were strength carry focused items to be, they might still have strength, but now a lot more attack damage. And that's, again, for the goal of, like, if you want to focus on making your attacks really good, we're going to let you specialize this direction, but it means that you are going to notice a little bit of ability damage going down. And Manchu Bow is essentially going to be the introductory item to a lot of those items. And you will see actually a new attack damage area on the shop when you go look at the shop.
Oh, awesome. That's great to hear. Zombie Bow, another one that's going to be in that direction, then added attack damage. We've made that 20, but we're decreasing the adaptive strength of this from 40 to 20. However, we've decreased also the adaptive intelligence from this from 55 to 40. I'm guessing that's to compensate the attack damage.
That's to compensate the attack damage. And you'll see this a lot of places. And basically, if we took 20 strength away and added 20, That's kind of us being like, we want a little bit of a nerf, but
Right.
basically similar. If we took more strength away than attack damage we provide, we want to nerf the item. And if we gave more attack damage than the strength that we removed, we want to buff the item a little bit. So that's the way you can kind of read these. So this is meant to be just basically the same, a little worse than where it currently is.
Golden Blade also seeing that. Attack damage 0, now 20. Decreased the strength of this item from 30 to 15 too. So maybe you'll see that in a couple of different builds as well.
Yep.
And then Dagger of Frenzy, now builds from Manchu Bow and Hunter's Bow for 800 gold. Added attack damage of 25, but we've removed the strength on this item from 35 to 0.
Yeah.
Frenzy's kind of been through quite a good history this year. This past year.
It's definitely been really, really popular. We like that people like the being able to chain kills together and get this really powerful stim effect. It's probably the best version of the stim type active effects that we have, but it was something that you could rush. It was just too effective for the stats it was providing, and being able to benefit double dip both in your basic attacks being really, really good and your abilities being really good meant this was difficult to balance. So this should help that. There are also other stat changes this item is having. So if you go to the next one.
My apologies. Increase the attack speed of this.
Yep. Yeah, because we removed much more strength than attack damage we gave it. And because it built from Manchu and the amount of attacks we get, it needed a bit more attack speed on itself. So that kind of balances out. And then we took after that balance, we took more off the active effect. Largely, our goal is that Dagger Frenzy is probably going to feel very similar if you're using it for your auto attacks.
Yeah.
But when you're using it to clear jungle camps or to clear minion waves, it's going to not feel as good in that slot. That's kind of the goal of this change.
Feels more like auto attacks the focus here if you're going to be looking into this. Okay, Chin's Blade as well next up is now built from Manchu Bow and Hunter's Bow for plus 900 gold. And we've added attack damage to the Chins. It's going to be 0 to 30. However, we've removed the strength from this as well. Yeah. Same sort of conditioning there, I guess, as well. Yeah. Allow some of the mages that may want to go auto attack to be able to build into this too.
Yep.
Tiffing also added attack damage 0 to 25, decreased the strength from 45 to 25. So we're really starting to see us really play around this attack damage thing. We've mentioned it a couple of times already today, but see more attack damage, less of the actual power scaling you're getting from strength or intelligence on some of these items. Hasten Fatalis, another one. Attack damage 0 to 25. Remove the strength on this item. And Spear of Desolation, the last item on the balance section here. Decrease the non-ultimate cooldown reduction on assist from 3 seconds to 1.5. And decrease the ultimate cooldown reduction on assist from 10 to 5.
Yeah, Spear of Desolation lets you cheat out double ultimates in fights. And that's something that is cool, but it should feel a bit more earned than just being around a team fight.
So
you should be
do kills still grant the same as they used to?
Yes.
It's just we've split out assist now?
Yeah, so assist will not provide you as much. Kills will provide you the old amount.
I think that's pretty fair.
And that means that if you use an ultimate and clean up and get a quadra kill and you want to use your ultimate to secure the penta,
then cool.
That feels really, really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Just being around, you whiff an ult and then you happen to be around for 4 assists and then you're able to ult again.
Vulcan was near a team fight and gets a second ult for free.
I feel we're just going to see a lot of mages, I feel, complain when they're like, oh, my teammate stole my kill for my resets. Yeah. But that's
it should still be a plenty good item. You know what? If you get kill stolen from you and you could just be better. Could get good.
So next up is going to be moving on to God Balance. And you mentioned it was kind of focused a little bit towards solo lane for the most part, but there's a few other bits and pieces.
Yeah, there's a few random odds and ends in here, but the only thing that has a kind of big note is just we wanted to buff a few solo laners who are underperforming. We think that with Sanguine Lash being weaker, that'll shake up a little bit of that meta as well.
Sure.
With jungle pressure being a little bit different, we think that'll shake things up a little bit. So nothing's too crazy here.
Right.
If the solo lane meta doesn't get very different after this, we will probably be more extreme in another round.
Dun, dun, dun. Will we see diversity in this whole line? We'll find out in the updated patch. Amaterasu will be getting a buff here. Heavenly Reflection, increased damage mitigation while active.
That's nice. I like
with
that.
7 to 15%, it's going to be flat 15% at all ranks. So whenever you have this, 15% mitigations.
Yeah, and I think that just makes it so when you have that first rank, when it's up, it's going to be a lot more meaningful when you're actually trying to make those trades in the early laning phase. And I don't kind of like these mitigation type stats scaling the way they do, because technically, as your health and protections are scaling, it's already scaling.
So it's going further.
That makes sense.
So I like this being a more flat amount, just so you know that when this is up, it's going to be powerful and it doesn't change over the course of the game.
Anubis buff here, the scales, the passive, the scales description functionality has been updated to be easy to understand, along with some of the balance changes. Anubis starts the game with 2% lifesteal and 10 protections, and gains additional bonus lifesteal and protection scaled from missing health. Caps at 6% lifesteal and 20 protections at 20% health.
I rewrote this to basically use Bancroft's Talons wording, just because that was an item that was more easy to understand. The way it was written before made it really confusing to just intuitively understand what was going on. The TLDR as lifesteal is basically the same. Protections is a little bit toned down.
Okay.
Anubis as much as he's not necessarily meta and ranked, is one of the most winning gods, and it's partially due to his free stats. And so one thing that we like to do when that's kind of the case is remove some of those free stats and try to inject the power in a way that's more directly felt. And so that's what Death's Gaze adjustment is trying to be.
Yeah, and the Death's Gaze adjustment there for you all. The scales is always going to be at full strength during his ultimate. So whatever level he is, let's just say, max level, then it would be the cap of 6% lifesteal and 20 protection.
No, because that's just based on his health, right? So even if he's at 100% health, he'll have the bonus. So that'll end up being 8% lifesteal and 30 protections.
Gotcha.
That's pretty good.
6% lifesteal more.
For free?
Yeah, for free.
Just for ultim. Chak is also getting a buff as well. Man, I swear, like last year, Chak was like nerf, and now it's like, we got to buff him again.
Yep.
Increase the damage of his torrent. 80 to 300 will now be 80 to 340. So more just a late game adjustment there. Ever so slightly.
His ability to clear and sustain the lane feels generally good, but he just doesn't carry enough oomph into the late game, and the bonus damage here should help.
And then next up is the dodgy nerf that chat was going, show it me already.
Most banned character right now, right?
Most banned character by almost double. So the next character is half as banned as dodgy.
Really?
Which is why...
Is some of that just because they are like, it's not been seen for so long?
Self-fulfilling prophecy.
It's kind of, I feel like Scylla went through this for a while, once upon a time, where she was just constantly banned, but she wasn't.
Dodgy's new enough that I think it's probably fair. And I think the big thing is actually more... if junglers are running the game, she actually has a lot of really good early clear and early pressure, and being slightly overtuned means that like if the jungle role is strong because you're able to snowball the game potentially, she just is the best example of that, and so she's able to be more effective. It's why she's the only jungler here being directly adjusted, by the way. Like
because there's other adjustments in there.
There's other junglers that are in like higher ban rates, but they are significantly lower than Dodgy, and we feel like Dodgy's probably the outlier to be adjusted.
So here come the nerfs. Decrease the base attack damage from 42 to 39. Horrible burns will see decreased permanent bonus scaling from 2% to 1%. Decrease the slow strength from 15 to 30 scaling will now be 15 to 25, so not as good at max rank. And aspect slow is unchanged, just for you all to know down the horrible burns. 1,000 cuts, decrease the base damage. It was 35 to 115, will now be 35 to 95. Again, a max rank reduction there. The aspect is unchanged. And Trickster Spirit, the 3, decreased the base damage. It was 80 to 240, will now be 60 to 200, so scaling across the damage across the board of the 3. The aspect will remain unchanged.
Yeah,
a lot of points.
Yeah, a lot of points. Basically, most abilities getting adjusted, just being toned down across the board. Lots of individual small things that are going to add up to be a pretty big adjustment. And I think for the other note is the aspect largely didn't get adjusted here.
Yeah.
The base attack damage will affect it. The permanent damage scaling will adjust it. But the aspect saw a lot lower pick rate and generally less success anyway. So we think that it's probably a good spot. Like, for example, ranked, I think it was like a 80-20 split on using the aspect versus not using the aspect versus using the aspect. So we think it's largely the base kit that needs the adjustment, not the aspect.
And we'll keep an eye on the aspect as well, just to see if that shoots into the stratosphere now, potentially. Yeah. Doubtful, though. Guan Yu with a fix for conviction. Fixed an issue where this was not healing minions.
Yeah, we had another buff for him, but this fix means that, like, you now potentially can, like, being able to heal minions is generally an impactful thing, because if you can stall the enemy laner from, like, actually being able to, like, fully clear the wave, that's a pretty big buff to his laning potential, and I didn't want to double up on this fix, so maybe in the future he'll get the other buff I was planning, but we're going to see how this goes first.
Is that for base and aspect?
This will be for both.
Cool.
Awesome. Hades buff. We're going to see a passive buff here of his Blight. Remove the strength reduction from 5% to 0. Removed intelligence reduction from 5% to 0%. Added damage reduction 0 to 5%. And this will be more universally applicable
base damage
as it will affect
base
damage.
If I don't have any strength or intelligence, it doesn't do anything, which means in the early game, Blight being debuffing you, and especially like a soul lane where you might not actually have that much strength or yet, doesn't really matter. But a 5% hit adjusts the base damage of all attacks. It'll adjust the base damage of abilities. That's just going to be a lot more universally useful for him.
And then additionally with that, the Shroud of Darkness, new enemies who are blighted now have their blight strengthened for 6 seconds, increasing the damage reduction to 10%.
Yeah, so basically this is a pretty direct upgrade to especially tanky styles of Hades play. Mage style has a lot of damage potential. You can really, really just blow people up. If we ever want to like split the two out further, we'll probably do like an aspect version, but this should help, especially his solo lane capability, a lot.
Next on this list is Hercules with a buff to his mitigate wounds. We're going to be seeing the heal go up from 40 to 120. Will now be a little bit better in the early game all the way through, I guess. 60 to 120 still at the top end. And increase the protections from 10 to 30 will now be 15 to 35. I feel this is kind of a bit of a backtrack in a weird way based off what we saw last year with her. Cause I guess that, solo diversity has changed overall as well. But once Hercules was kind of running the roost of the battlefield.
And I think I didn't want to buff him on his potential to
all in.
Burst damage all in people, because that also generally comes with a lot of snowball out of the lane, or even jungle Hercules snowballing really aggressively. His ability to be able to trade more effectively with mitigate wounds, heal a bit more from it, have a bit more protections, that's just going to help him in a way that I don't think is going to necessarily reintroduce a lot of the when Hercules is strong in a specific way, he feels like it's really oppressive. This should just help him fight back in the lane phase a bit more overall.
Awesome. Next on the list is Medusa with a buff, and there's a commentary there from the devs as well. Pon, do you want to give us a bit of a baseline on Medusa?
This is actually probably more of a we're drawing a line in the sand, so I want to take some time to explain this. Okay, so strength and intelligence. The whole goal of the system is largely to define playstyle adjustments.
Right. We
can give characters intelligence scaling and strength scaling, keep them separated in a way that lets us do more targeted changes to the kit to really amplify certain parts of the kit. As we developed SMITE 2, we tried a lot of different things, including some that were one of these playstyle differences could just be ability damage versus attack damage, right? And why that sometimes can create a meaningful difference, we generally don't want to do that going forward. If the only difference in playstyle is I hit you with abilities versus I hit you with attack damage, that's not enough of a justification. And part of the reason is because of what happened to Medusa. So I'm using Medusa as an example case.
Okay.
Medusa in SMITE 1, you could play Medusa as this kind of not really a super great carry. You weren't a hyper carry. You couldn't just immediately get to the late game and you were the biggest threat. There's characters who are way better at doing that than Medusa. But Medusa also had really good ability pressure. So she's kind of but she wasn't the best ability character either, right? She wasn't an assassin, she wasn't a mage. She fit this very specific band of being a jack of all trades, master of none. But that playstyle, if you like that as Medusa, went away. Because when she got intelligence scaling, it largely focused on making her abilities better, and her strength side tried to focus on making her attacks better. And so she lost a collective 60 to 70% strength scaling to make that happen, which means that now the playstyle that you might have liked from SMITE 1 is gone.
Right.
We think a better approach going forward are things like what we did with Newt, where Newt actually you can largely play Newt. If you went strength, you largely get to play the Newt that you had from SMITE 1.
Right.
But now if you go int, now there's a whole new, we added the double meteor, we added more rewards on your 3, we added some more pen on your 1. We made that actually feel more different to play, and that we think is a better direction because it didn't come at the cost of how it felt to play the original style of Newt.
Okay.
Right? So Medusa is largely getting a lot of these strength adjustments reverted.
Right.
To make her play the way she did before, which does mean that we do have kind of a weird case of the int I didn't touch at all. So you can do a little more ability damage if you go super hard int.
Okay.
Most people aren't doing that anyway right now. It probably means that we will circle back to Medusa at some point to try and either decide, is Medusa just going to actually be a strength character, or are we going to try and find some way to give her an intelligence playstyle shift that actually feels meaningful? But for now, we're going to bring back Medusa to where she largely was. Going forward, and even looking at other characters, Aladdin is, I think, another example of a character who doesn't actually have enough of a meaningful difference between strength and intelligence. We'll look at those characters and decide what we're going to be doing with them. But going forward, it's partially with Chiron, right?
I guess it's a good way. I was going to bring that up. Chiron's kind of been spoken about in the community. Everyone's like, whoa, what about intelligence, Chiron?
Yeah,
right?
If your goal is to, Chiron is another kind of jack of all trades, master of none, this kind of ability pressure with some decent auto attack pressure as well. We want to encourage that in a different way than necessarily just strength and intelligence scaling, because if we add intelligence scaling, you probably end up seeing that we have to nerf strength on him to make that playstyle feel meaningfully different.
Right.
And now you've kind of compromised the core Chiron experience, and we don't want to do that.
Okay. So, Medusa buff. First of all, obviously we fixed some issues with the tooltips, as you can see at the bottom there. But Viper Shot, we've increased the damage over time of this ability. It will be 10 to 30, will now be 12 to 40. Acid Spray increased the strength scaling from 50% to 65%. And Petrify, we've increased the strength scaling from 65% to 80%. Increased strength scaling when not facing Medusa is 55% to... Sorry, it was 55, it's now 70? Is that what I read?
Yeah.
Am I crazy? Oh, so you take 70 if you're not facing it. Okay.
Yeah, so it's 10% more scaling.
Yeah.
I
Guess. The way I read it at first, I was like, that seems like a huge buff. But big buffs to Medusa then. Again, you said intelligence hasn't been touched here, but it may be something we look at.
Yeah, if you want the absolute highest damage acid spray, you still go intelligence. But largely the difference between the two is now less meaningful. Most people were not going intelligence Medusa anyway.
Sure.
And now that strength's getting better, we expect that to basically drop to 0. We kind of know that. We will circle back to this and look at this because again, like there's a few other characters who have a similar type of, we don't think that the strength and intelligence split has been enough of a playstyle difference, and we'll go back and decide what we want to do with them. We want to just make sure when we're doing this, we are providing a playstyle difference and not just this, because it ends up having like, by the time you get to the end of it, you've balance compromised yourself to actually have reduced it, having removed or severely weakened the base experience you expect from Smite 1.
Yeah. Next on the list is Newt. And Newt released over the winter period, and Ponchi did pretty well, but I feel like...
Well, the aspect did
I was gonna say,
really well.
So
let's talk through it, really.
Yeah, so base Newt is largely fine.
Right.
Attack Newt probably a little underperforming compared to Int Newt.
Okay.
Int Newt seems to be the more preferred way of playing, but they're both really, really close.
Okay.
And we see actually so the goal here is actually to make largely the attack strength side Newt a bit better. So that's what the buffs that you're going to see are targeted towards.
Yeah.
The aspect is like a solid 10% higher win rate than base Newt.
Really?
By quite a bit. Really, really good. Really, really strong. So while we're bringing up the base a little bit, especially on the strength side, we are trying to absolutely floor the aspect.
Well, let's have a look through. So the passive, first of all, increase attack speed per level, 0.1 to 0.2%.
And that only matters if you are higher strength than Int.
Okay. Just check on that. Convergence, increased inner damage from 40 to 70% will now be 50 to 70%.
Yep.
Increase the outer strength of convergent scaling. Strength scaling from 12.5 to 17.5%. And increase the outer intelligence scaling from 15% to 20%.
Yep.
Crashing Comet increased the build-up time from 0.7 to 0.9. Oh, so that says aspect only on that.
Yeah, so this is something also we're going to experiment with, which is we actually increased the build-up time for the ability on the aspect. We try to keep ability times the same.
Yeah.
Largely because also just for our own sanity of like how we handle effects and sounds and all that stuff.
Makes sense.
But this was relatively easy to tweak, so we're going to try it.
Okay.
But we felt that, like, especially adding a stun to it,
Yeah.
And the range she has and the safety she has at applying it, there probably needs to be more warning and more skill in actually hitting people with it.
More chance to avoid,
So we're increasing that window by a little bit.
Okay. The warp fixed an issue where the cooldown for this ability was actually 12 to 10 instead of the intended 12, so flat 12 now, and increased the cooldown from 12 seconds to 14 seconds in the aspect only.
Yeah.
So less availability of that CC immunity you're providing to your teammates in the repositions.
Yeah, and we think that's actually really cool utility. I actually think a lot of the plays I've seen people use it is really, really cool. But 10 seconds with a little bit CDR is a much different story than 14 seconds, right? So there should be a pretty substantial nerf to her.
But wait, there's more.
Yes. There is more. Aspect of the Cosmos. We've decreased the base damage bonus. It was 20% to 10%. Increased the scaling reduction from 20% to 25%. And fixed an issue where the heal was not targeting the lowest health actor, as in player.
Yeah.
It now chooses the target with the most missing percent health nearby.
Yeah, so if someone's 50% health and you're 75% health, it'll shoot at them.
Yeah.
And we found in playtesting, because her aspect had a version where she didn't have any of this base scaling adjustments, and what ended up happening was like you just couldn't compete with a lot of like tank pressure, and so going to 20% though was too extreme. So this just means a 10% base damage nerf across the board, and her scaling reduction is also going up. So if you do try to build more intelligence, more strength on her to be kind of this like mixed bruiser, that's also going to be less effective.
Gotcha. And that's a little look at the overview then for the OB26 that will be released on Tuesday. Now, obviously, the PTS is live and will stay live for the weekend. So make sure you can check out and test out all that stuff if you didn't already during the week. And then expect there may be changes through by Tuesday. You never know. Otherwise, this is kind of what we're looking at for release. And it's now 1:30, so 30 minutes of the overview today. And I guess, what's next, Gilgrim? Just go through questions really today? I guess that's the best place? Or?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. That's the main thing we want to talk about today. This is my last show for a week, so if you have anything you want to ask me in particular, now is the time because I'm gone next week.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
He is.
Yeah, but otherwise, there's a lot of people chatting about different balance things. We can address some of the concerns. I saw a lot of people talking about Uller. How do we feel about how he is current? Sorry, I'm asking you as you're coughing.
That's fine.
How do we feel about how he's performing? Is that something that,
he wasn't immediately on any of the lists that I was looking at. His overall performance didn't stand out as much. He's not being super banned. he still seems like he's being pretty successful. I think he tends to spike up a little bit when we see that like carries are building Bumbas. He tends to actually do really well in those types of metas. So this might take a little bit of the edge off just on its own. He's also a character that like the attack damage strength adjustments in particular are probably going to affect him. So
yeah, that's what went through my head. It just really depends if he's going to be building into those items naturally, because seeing the reduction in the strength is not going to allow his abilities to do as much, but his autos would.
What's the thought process behind not nerfing the bleed on Sanguine? So our goal with items is that there should be something about the item that feels impactful. And one way to easily get to a state of a game where everything's kind of mediocre and underwhelming and doesn't feel impactful is to buff the edges off of all the things that have a little bit of sharpness to them. And we think that that active effect should feel strong. It should feel potent. And to keep that feeling strong in a balanced state, we can take a lot of other things away before we do that. In some cases, yeah, we do need to buff the edges a little bit, but I don't want that to be like the default state for that to go into for a lot of things, because when we do that 6 months down the road, you're asking like, well, why doesn't any item I feel like I buy really do anything? So we want to keep that part strong. It being less frequent is a pretty direct nerf to it. You being weaker outside of it with a strength reduction is a pretty big nerf to it. And I do think that when you play with the fact that it won't be just hitting everything around you, it's only going to be hitting gods around you, will also feel pretty meaningful in practice.
Somebody asked why I wore a shirt with holes in it, and I thought that was amusing because there are holes. Yeah, very clever. There's people are asking about the duration of CC immunity that Newt Aspect provides. Obviously, we are hitting that somewhat indirectly by increasing the cooldown from 10 seconds to 14 seconds on that ability. But the actual duration the CC lasts once you cast the ability isn't something that's changed here. How do we feel about that? Is that a...
I could do that as a follow-up nerf. I see that's probably
do reasonable. It today. Just Chad be like, yeah, we did it. No, I'm not
I expect that in practice, a lot of the other nerfs we did are going to be pretty meaningful. And again, I don't want to just remove a lot of like that is the fact that that's something that people are talking about and it's a unique thing that Newt's bringing that other sports really don't bring in the way that she does. I think that's cool, and I think that things like per passive base damage being higher are much easier things, a lot less like you're not losing a lot of intrigue by nerfing that number, where I think if you nerf the CC immunity too much, you're going to largely take away a lot of that intrigue. And I also think that it's one of those things that like, yeah, if I nerf it from, I actually don't remember what it is. I want to say it's 0.5 off the top of my head. Maybe it's 1. But let's say you nerf it from 1 to 0.5. I don't know if people necessarily complaining about it are actually that much happier. Because when it does save someone, it's just going to save someone. Yeah. And yeah, you can make it less impactful in that way in that situation. But it could just be that is the unique strength, and let that be the unique strength and let it shine.
Two kind of related questions. Who's the next god? Discordia is the next god. She's coming out on Tuesday.
Yep.
And she seems strong on PTS. Are we going to consider nerfing her in advance from where she is on PTS right now? According to this one person's opinion. I don't know.
Sorry, say that again. I saw another question.
Disco. Are we going to nerf her from where she is on PTS?
Will she see any adjustments?
I talked to Clumsy about a few small things, and I know he was fixing a few small things. She'll probably ship pretty close to how she was in PTS.
Okay. What was the question you saw?
I don't understand the new mage visage item. If everyone does physical damage with basics, wouldn't you just want the normal item against a crit mage? I think that's a misconception, right? Characters like Soul, their basics are not physical damage. Their basics are magical damage, and that's the whole point of an item like this.
Yeah,
just to fit that. Someone did ask, do these attack changes indirectly benefit mage AD carries? Was this by design? So obviously the attack damage going onto these items now. Was this obviously not thought through, but obviously it was, I guess.
It gives mage ADCs more flexibility in how they want to build, which I think is just a cool side effect.
Sure.
But the main thing is that so that we can better appropriately tune assassins versus carries.
Yeah.
That's kind of the main goal, right? Like Dagger Frenzy, I think, is a clear example of like that was really meant to be a carry item, or maybe a chainsaw, or like maybe a chainsaw assassin style item. Right. But because of just it giving enough strength and being able to give you good enough basic attacks as well, just made it so that like if I wanted to nerf it for what the jungle use case was, I don't know if a carry would actually have bought it again.
How do you feel about Zeus this person believes that Zeus needs a buff for conquest and a nerf for non-conquest.
He's definitely not a troll pick. He does pretty well. He's just not like super high end. He's not super low end. He does pretty well, especially like basically, I'd say like 95% of the game, unless you're in like the top echelon, playing Zeus, you're almost certainly actually going to win over some other characters that like we just see that like that character actually does quite well. So play what you want to play. You'll be fine. You'll do great. As long as it's not super troll. Don't go pure damage supports because that's not playing the role that you're supposed to be playing. The other side of that, which is conquest versus non-conquest. We've talked about doing that to some capacity in some cases. It's just really tricky, and it becomes a lot more of things for us to manage in a world where we're trying to make sure we're delivering on a lot of the things we need to, like new God releases, making sure we're bringing new items to the game, bringing new content to the game. We could do a very basic version of it, but visibility on it would be pretty low. I don't even know if people would realize it's there the way that we would implement it. And it's largely going to take up a lot of time away from like kind of our core thing. So unless there's outlier cases that are like really, really extreme, we'd probably just adjust the God directly versus trying to do conquest versus non-conquest type balance for now.
Where did we get these jars from? These are candles from Celestial Wicks, and they are Smite scented candles. You can pick some up at Celestial Wicks. I think they just came out with a new scent. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
They're part of our community merch program, so it's just somebody in the community.
Next Friday, I'll give you more information on the new products coming from them. But yes, community merch program. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No,
just more
the
information.
Real quick, somebody in the community wanted to make Smite branded candles. They applied through the community merch program. We said that sounds great. If you want to make official Smite branded merch and you're part of our community, you can do that. There's like a maximum amount of money you can make before you have to switch to whatever kind of agreement, but it's several $1,000s. It's not a small amount. So if it's something you're interested in, you can check it out.
Is there a Bacchus one here?
Yeah, maybe. It might be on my desk.
What?
I've got a few of them. I appreciate Luna sending them all over. So
it's yellow snow.
Bacchus is probably like festive spells.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there any items that never get purchased, and do you think about buffing them or fine with them never being purchased?
There is a certain level of not being purchased that I think is okay. Depends on what the goal of the item is.
I guess I would say let's go with Scepter of Dominion as an example, because I feel like that's something that was very low purchase, and all of a sudden everyone's getting it. But we did give some buffs to
it. Even everyone purchasing it, I'm sure if I go look at the stats, Scepter of Dominion is like one of the least purchased items of the game. If it does become something that's purchased at the frequency of like a Spear of Desolation, that everyone in this chat is going to ignore everything I say, and it's just going to be flooded with why is this item not nerfed yet?
Sure.
There's definitely a level of like once the item has become like certain type of item effects, if they are that mainstream and that frequently purchased, it's just going to be an absolute nightmare of like a balance situation for them. So some of them are expected to be a lot more situational and niche, and if that ends up being that they are under purchased compared to other core items, like Rod Tahuti, for example, is like,
cool.
It's expected to be a relatively good end game item for mages. Scepter of Dominion is like, does my team even work with this effect? Same with like Talisman of Purification, right? Like, if you're playing against a team that actually doesn't have that many hard stuns, you might actually want other types of effects removal. You're not gonna. It's situational items often mean way less purchase rate, and that's fine. If it's super low purchase and we think it's much more applicable than it currently is and it's underperforming, then we would buff it. But there are some niches where that's perfectly fine if this item has a 1 to 2% purchase rate.
That makes sense.
How do we feel about the distance mechanics on the Void items and Mystical Mail? So Void, like Void Shield, doesn't debuff as much at further range than close range, and Mystical Mail deals like a little bit less damage at further range than close range.
In retrospect, I think it's still like fine, but I think we were expecting a bit more, like maybe we didn't push it far enough. Like maybe there should be a more extreme to it, and maybe those ranges should be a bit more clear. Like there should be like a min range, and maybe those effects actually extend further because of it. Keeping it the same rough size that we did, I think you end up not really noticing too much of a difference. So I feel like the next test there would be like push them a little bit more and see what happens, versus I think just adding it to the existing ranges has not been as interesting as we thought it might be.
So it's something we will evaluate. Okay.
Yeah. Will there ever be more anti-shield or soft anti-heal items? Yeah, we'd be willing to expand that like pool of items.
Yeah, I heard you mention on Monday you may be looking at maybe some anti-heal items again in the future, but very like similar to what we've done with gods in terms of the percentage amount being lower.
Yeah, I mean, I think a 25% on some items. Like, I think we're at a point now where like you don't feel like you have to buy Divine Rune every game, even with like not that many healers in the game. I think we've actually hit that goal really, really well. In the case of like the whole team is 4 healers, maybe there's a world where having access to that 25% so you don't feel like you got screwed because you didn't draft a Bacchus or you didn't pass a sub deck. That feels fine to me, and that feels something reasonable we could bring back. It'd probably need to be on a few items, but I think that world is a lot healthier than the world we were in before, where like those were like good regardless. Yeah. And also made healers feel like they went from full to nothing.
Yeah.
So bringing 25% back seems like it's something we could do potentially in the future. I think the goals we set out for were pretty much achieved. So,
chat's designing items, and they say that we need a tank item that makes you bigger so you can body block better.
I like that idea.
So
can we do it off length of time?
Because we have items that make you bigger already, right?
Yeah, but they're fake. Yeah. They're not real.
They're not. Okay.
They don't actually make you bigger.
Gab just gets bigger and bigger. That'd be great.
So
imagine Capri just blocking the jungle. That'd be fantastic.
So I did test this way back, and maybe there's a world where we could do better now. But that was the original intent of the Avatar's Parashu, because it does make you bigger, but it doesn't actually make your hitbox any bigger. When I tried to make the hitbox bigger, it did some very janky things. So like janky things as in, if you didn't fall through the world,
step one,
you might jitter a lot. If you're next to a wall, you got pushed out in ungraceful ways.
Rocky's in chat with a sad face.
Yeah, yeah. And like now, like what happens if you stack those effects? Like what if Dreamer's Idol and Avatar's Project? Because you can like cheating the model size is one thing, but making the actual capsule, like there's also some areas of the jungle you might literally not be able to walk through, and that might be funny. But yeah, the fact that Rocky's giving me a frowny face, I think means I made the right call and not just shipping that. But that was also a long time ago. That was like, I mean, that was when we initially did Avatar's Parashu. So like it's been a while. Maybe it's less bad.
Can we just make it taller instead? Does that hurt us?
Taller is probably easier.
Just like, you know, like Yorm's head, and now it's...
big head.
Yeah, no, I wasn't going that far. I just meant like just taller than a Yorm.
Yeah, but taller doesn't really help you, unless it's the tower.
Vision!
Yeah.
You know, you can look over the walls.
Does it actually affect your camera? So I guess it should probably, if it makes you taller, it should probably affect your camera. So yeah, but then you get shot at the tower, like the tower shoots Yorm.
That's true.
I actually like, I know that's a bug we need to fix.
Sure,
but I legitimately like that the tower sees Yorm peeking up over the wall and like, yeah, I'm going to shoot you.
You're in, technically, I can see it. I get you where you're at with that.
It's just kind of funny, but yeah, we probably should fix that, but... I don't know. I think there's some fun things we could do with like scaling size, but it's not like that's something that we'd have to like actually dedicate some time to, because it's safely like just changing your size all of a sudden is like one of the most, if you wonder why like a lot of video games and speedruns have where like you can just clip through terrain and just skip whole sections of the game, almost all of them are related to like your character's collision and the world collision not being respected due to some desync or being able to like scale your size in some way or glitching through stuff. And we're just asking to introduce that and have you start falling through the world in an infinite death loop. And like you'd have to be a lot more considerate about how you do it.
Watching devs look back at speedruns that people have done is very entertaining. Just see them go, wait, you can do that through the wall? Did we never fix that? You know, stuff like that. It's always funny to see.
AGDQ is live right now.
Oh, really?
If you're a speedrun enjoyer. So I think this afternoon is the Souls block. So if you want to watch some Souls likes speedrunnered. I don't know what the right word is.
Yeah, you probably have like a safe max hitbox size pretty safely. Like I think our general like, I know this was Smite 1, and I think Smite 2 maps even have like the Khepri model. Like the size of any opening should be at least 2 Khepris, and like our unit of measurement is Khepris. Anything smaller than that starts to cause some like collision weirdness and problems.
In Smite 2, you guys have changed our philosophy of hybrid items only being power and HP items, and now we have prot and power items again, which makes them a lot harder to balance, in my opinion. Why the change?
There's a lot of cases and a lot of characters where like the health and power stuff just doesn't make sense for them, and they want different stat spreads. When you have a game with this many characters who want different things, it's hard to remove something like that without like pretty drastically affecting how a character plays or feels or itemization they need. And we think that a lot of the hybridization problems we had were probably like not related to that type of thing versus more like just how the characters are balanced.
Right.
I think that's just largely a making sure we have enough of an item pool for the different types of things players need is probably more important than some high level idea that we have of like how the how a bruiser should play, when a lot of the time that can be adjusted by other things.
Option to hide stars on the loading screen. That's one of those things that's like theoretically we could do at some point, but I think I've heard this from everybody I know that has worked on, like a live service game. UI is almost always like either the biggest bottleneck or like second biggest bottleneck for a team. There's always more things that you want to do on the UI side than you can get done.
It's never ending. There's always a list. Yeah.
And there's we just have this huge list of backlog things that we think could make the game significantly better, right? And it ranges from things that seem small and obvious, like ordering roles the same way on everywhere that roles appear, right? So it's like, jungle is always the second row or whatever, right? Like it, ranging from that to, there's a retention system that we're missing, and we think that, if we had a UI element that better showed the rewards you get for your first 10 levels to new players, that they may stick around more to play those first 10 levels.
Yeah.
Or and a match lobby. And a match lobby is a not great experience right now that doesn't really celebrate how you've performed, how your teammates have performed. It doesn't really show the progress you've made. It's just kind of a thing, right? Like there are a million UI things that we could do and we want to do to make the game better.
Yeah.
And adding an option to hide stars on the loading screen is competing with all of those, right?
Yeah.
So it's not saying that we'll never do it, but it's just like that's one of those things that would go on the backlog, and it's going to take a long time before it rises to the top.
How hard it would be to make Time Lock Aegis cancel with the cancel ability button instead of refiring it to cancel it? Cancel with the cancel ability button instead of...
So like right click.
Right click.
Right click, yeah.
I thought you... Oh, no, you can't right click it, yeah, because there's no targeter up. That's not super easy. We can with the refire stuff. There is a way to do that, but it also would mean that like while you're firing some other stuff, honestly you can though right now. I thought you could. I thought that was like what like the other side of the question I've had is people want me to remove being able to hit the ability button entirely. Because if they mash it and they end up canceling it even though it added a window. But there's a lot of people who use that style to cancel things. I thought you could right click it.
I think it's always funny to watch you get a question and then process it live in your brain of how the dev would work and go, yeah, I can do that, but I can't, but I can, but I can't.
Yeah, and also like I am pretty sure you can right click it. I thought you could. Unless I'm misunderstanding what a cancel ability button means.
We know what Pon's going to look at later on, that's for sure.
I have other stuff to look at today.
Well, there's another one on the list.
Can solo lane have walls for the first 10 minutes so the jungle doesn't come ruin our fun?
No, it's not your fun either. You just both want to farm. You're not going to fight.
I thought it was funny. But I think the things that I'm going to say real quick are just that, we are hopefully reducing the early impact of junglers here by making jungle starters clear a little bit slower and give you a little bit less strength, right? So the junglers shouldn't hopefully not throw the game, but like affect the game as much when they rotate into your lane as they were previously. And also, everybody gets free wards now. You can use those free wards to see when a jungler is coming towards you, and then you can just like back up a little bit. It's very easy to tunnel vision on the person you're fighting, but we try to give you tools to help protect yourself.
Hear me out. Solo lane is a real island that slowly moves in towards the rest of the map during the first 10 minutes.
That would be funny. Has its own rules. Everyone votes on who's going to be in the solo lane island.
And then you're just in the island until the end.
And
until like 10 minutes in.
And if no one else is on the island, you get like a giant cannon, and you get to like lob cannons onto the map. So like, if you want to if people want to leave
artillery shots, okay,
yeah, it'll be great.
Okay, so people are saying that they have one free ward and 3 paths that need warding. You can buy more wards. Nobody is keeping you only using your one free ward. Somebody else says the one ward that only lasts 30 seconds.
Well, that costs money.
The cooldown of that ward is exactly the length of that ward. So you can place it the second it expires and have permanent vision of one spot of the map.
There is also a case to be made of like, you want vision because vision allows you to have enough safety to do certain things. But if you also have all the vision, you then never have any tension, and you know exactly what's going to happen at all times. So there needs to be some tension as well.
Rocky says, Alex, who has the money for wards in this economy?
It's true. It's true.
See, every ward requires 2 gigabits of RAM or gigabytes of RAM, so they're really expensive now.
Very expensive. I see some people talking about RTO, both just like how she's doing balance-wise, and also how we feel about her as a healer role in Assault.
Yeah, so
is she classed as a healer in Assault yet?
I want to say she is.
Okay.
I want to say she is.
I've not played enough to be sure, so I'm not going to say that, but I think that could be.
Yeah, every so often I run the Assault Healer query and just kind of go like, hey, is anyone not matched where they need to be? And I kind of have like rough buckets for them. We did that one pass recently. If she isn't, then yeah, we should fix that. New Aspect is probably good enough that you should. She's probably a tier 3 healer if I had to guess.
Well, RTO and Nut according to chat are not currently.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, New Aspect. Well, also New Aspect didn't exist for most of.
That's fair.
For like
I think that's kind of hard with Newt, right? Because I guess like normal Newt, you're not going to give a heal.
The ruling we decided on.
Yeah, here we go.
Is that your high end potential for that character is what determines what assault bucket you go into.
Okay.
Because the only other option is either accept that assault is not a primary game mode and is going to be random, and accept the randomness as part of it.
We don't want random. We want controlled randomness. That's what
and
assault
if you want controlled random,
yes.
The only other solution is we're going to roll you as Newt with Aspect, and you cannot change. Because in that world we can say, yeah, Newt Aspect, like
New
Guan
Aspect
Aspect is actually probably the best healer in all of Assault. By like a lot.
Don't tell everybody.
But you could also go a type of Guan that almost does no healing.
Yeah.
And so we have to just decide, are you playing that version or not? And so we just have to kind of assume that you are playing the best version for your team and go with that, short of adding rules about forcing you to be a certain aspect. And I got told in no uncertain terms that they would immediately uninstall the game and leave and quit if I made that call. So I've stopped pretending to know what Assault players want, and I largely just do the things that are like, yeah, that's relatively easy for me to do. That helps the Assault game mode feel better. But big new features like that, I think you risk alienating a whole bunch of the Assault players.
How do we feel about, just because we're on a healing topic right now, Aphrodite's healing? Setsuna Fairy, common commenter, always concerned about Aphrodite's state.
Aphrodite is generally doing well. I think I've seen a lot of the comments in chat where they're like, why does this character passively heal more than Aphrodite, or Guan has an AoE team heal than Aphrodite does? Aphrodite has a very specific niche, which is I get to keep one person alive, and she is almost certainly the best character in the entire game at doing that.
Yep.
She can focus her heals. She doesn't require to be in combat to have access to those heals. So like Newt, for example, doesn't have as much direct control, has to actually be actively fighting and hitting abilities to get a heal. Aphrodite doesn't have that requirement. Guan can do team AoE healing, but it's not going to be the same effect at healing that single person, along with sharing protections, along with an ult, along with being able to reset the heal so that she gets a double heal, right? Like, she is good at that specific niche, and that is good for her, and she seems to be doing well. If we want to make the healing number go up, it would be at the cost of we would remove the protection share. We'd remove the bonus damage she provides to that teammate. We'd make the ult less effective. Those are the trade-offs that you'd have to make to have a higher healer.
Is that what chat wants? That's the real question here.
And
remove
that we
all
could
the
do
bonuses
that.
Avro does and give her more healing.
Do you be able to utility pocket a carry and make sure that they don't die so they get a pentakill is like no other god does as well as she does at doing that. And that is a very good strength of hers. We can make that more focused on healing, but it will come at the cost of other things because she is good at doing that right now.
Someone said, yeah, you can remove the kiss and I can get a higher heal. So just the one doesn't work.
The one,
yeah.
no
she
stun?
self-heals even more. That's
no
basically
stun?
the case.
Is that the trade?
Kepri would like a word.
Kepri, being able to save someone and pull them out of danger is different than letting them continue to dive the back line.
I agree. And also like the variations of how Kepri can help a teammate on the front line versus an Afro, like the immediate CC immunity ultimate from an Afro.
And Kepri does that all
And
without healing.
Combat.
I guess the ult revives you with some health, but like,
yeah,
it doesn't heal the character until then. Because shields. Different. So I think that's the big thing is she has a niche that's clearly doing well because she overall does well niche. She does overall really well right now. I think people get hung up on the specific numbers when they don't look at the necessarily total capability she has.
Yeah.
If the numbers are that big of a hurdle for people to get over, we could make the number bigger. But if we just make the number bigger, she will absolutely overperform. So she's going to have to lose something to get that bigger number.
Mages. I know that we've previously stated that we want to look into mage itemization, and there's some stuff that we want to do there. It's a little bit further down the road, right? We have some bigger plans in mind that aren't going to come in this patch or the next patch, right? But I think that like there is still the question of like, even if the itemization is maybe a little bit boring right now, how are they performing?
Yeah.
I know that we've nerfed strength items and not int items in this patch, so I assume that obviously strength is stronger. But
the Reaper, a lot of the attack damage items, the mages will necessarily be better overall in that world. We see mages tend to do really, really well. I don't know specifically. I haven't looked at like the specific super high rank to see if that's really been that much of an issue. But like when I actually looked at like where gods are falling, nothing stood out to me as saying the mage class is underwhelming. That's something we look at when we look at the balance. Is like, as a class, are we seeing them meaningfully shift in one way? Because it's hard to like look at individual characters. Like
Sure.
Some mages are more resilient to change and some move really drastically, but as a whole, have they shifted one way? So they seem to be largely doing fine. I think the biggest problem mages have right now is, they do feel required to build 2 items in Rod Tahuti and Obsidian Shard. That's something we've stated we want to fix over time. We like that world better than some of the other worlds we've been in the past, because at least now these are like kind of contained, so your other options are a bit more flexible. But we obviously want to remove as many barriers as we can. That's kind of our goal. Strength characters also have similar things. Like they still feel pretty much locked into Titan's Bane.
Sure.
And I'd say most assassins probably would say Heartseeker is basically their core Rod Tahuti similar level. So it's like, I don't know if the problem is necessarily worse for mages than it is for some of the other roles. I guess carries probably have a bit more flexible. Like assassins and mages are probably in the same boat, where carries are a bit more flexible. Soul laners have a lot more flexibility. Supports obviously have more flexibility. So it's probably those two that have like the biggest complaint in there. And it's also why you don't see us nerfing those items, right? Like if I were to go look at the most popular items and most winning items, it's almost certainly it's Rod Tahuti, Titan's Bane, Heartseeker, Oathsworn Spear. They're all really, really high up there. But nerfing them feels like it's missing the point of the fact that we know that those items feel very core right now.
Why are they really
We're expecting you to be built, and we largely want to fix that, and fixing that is a much larger pass of when we do that nerf to those items, when we make the change, it's going to come with a slew of other changes to support it, because it has to.
Any word on changing server location? And this is speaking about NA in particular. I understand not splitting the player base with East and West like SMITE 1, but the game would function better for a lot if the servers were located more centrally and not just East Coast. So we have run some tests with servers in different locations to just kind of see what the impacts would be. And part of the problem is that like, if we move the servers, it makes it worse for some people and better for other people. And this is true for any server location that we can move to, right? So like Dallas or Chicago are kind of the two potential like centrally located places. I know that like League of Legends is in Chicago. We actually were seeing better in Dallas for like if from a centrally located option for the majority of the players. But we got a ton of reports when we did testing in Dallas from people saying that are East Coast, they're used to low ping, saying these servers are shit. You have ruined my experience. So it's a very difficult problem to solve that if we make it better for some people, we inevitably will make it worse for other people. The other benefit of our current server location is that it is very close to a transatlantic hub line or something. So people playing from Europe can actually play with a somewhat passable ping on NA servers. It's not a great ping, don't get me wrong, but it is playable.
It's higher, but it also depends on where in Europe you are too, because
Yeah.
you could be further east, and that causes even more. But yeah,
And if we move the servers to Chicago or Dallas,
then
it becomes pretty much unplayable for Europe people, which, obviously the goal of NA is to cater to NA.
For sure.
But a lot of the times we have like competitive like tournaments that will happen on NA servers that people want to play in from EU and whatnot. So, also America, if you look at population maps of America, something like 80% of our population lives east of the Mississippi. As somebody who grew up in California, it doesn't necessarily seem like it if you're over there, but there are just a ton more people that are on the East Coast. So if we're asking like what server location is better for the majority of our players, it's probably close to what we have now. I think we still have a couple tests that we're running, but I just don't know if they're going to end in a result that says it's better to move the servers for the majority of our player base. So I know that's probably not what you want to hear, but it is something that we've looked at and we've thought about a lot.
It's 1:59. It's already been the hour. So I guess it is time for
one more question.
Oh, I missed it.
So
it's all right.
You were too busy looking for a question. That's
why, right?
Because you've got a great one queued up right now.
Well, because there's like actually like a few that are basically related to like I'll rapid fire 3. That's mine.
Rap God, go.
Opinion on 2D being luxury and created other items that scale differently to like that could be a route to different like. If we remove Rod to Hootie being a core thing, we would want it to have probably a different effect, and there'd probably be other ways for different role styles to have made sure that like they feel like they scale in the late game really well. That'd probably be a natural consequence of like solving the 2 Hootie problem. Will we get more items with both strength and intelligence like Titan's Conch? Yes, although adaptive tends to be the better version of that because generally when you make a strength and intelligence item versus an adaptive item, they just become the best default option for characters that have both scaling types. And we want to be careful with those because it necessarily means that like it's really easy for those characters to just become way better than everyone else if we make an item that's slightly too good. The last question was related to Izanami. Would we expect to see similar things to Izanami, strength and versus Medusa? I'd say probably yes. Medusa was just kind of the first outing of that. She was a character that specifically had identified as like generally underperforming. And so making this change, looking at this problem and trying to work through what that meant for us as this, like putting kind of a line in the sand about how we view strength and intelligence in this role in the game. It felt good to get that out there first. And then we'll probably go back and look at these other characters. There you go. That's my 3.
Good 3. Do you have any Kilgoon? I don't see one.
I'm
good.
I'm just going to comment about something real quick.
Go for it.
People have learned that the meta to get me to respond to questions is to talk about sports things as part of your question. But the problem is that our chatters don't know enough about sports to know what interests me.
Right.
They're like, who do you think is going to win the Super Bowl? It's like the most generic like sports question you could possibly ask. And my favorite here is, who do you want to win the Super Bowl? I think I want the Los Angeles Lakers to win. They're a basketball team, so that they would not be playing for the Super Bowl. And I think that was intentional. It was funny. But the question that you should have asked me was how I felt about Trae Young being traded away from the Hawks.
Yeah, someone just asked it.
Oh, okay. Well, was there actually a real question about that?
No.
How you feel about the Trae Young trade? Okay, that was it.
Okay,
that was it.
I mean, I really enjoyed watching Trae. I thought that he was a really exciting, fun player to watch. I think, unfortunately, the league has the way basketball works has moved on from the 6'1" heliocentric guard who can't play defense. So I think that unfortunately it is the correct move for the future of the franchise, but it breaks my heart a little bit because I really enjoyed watching him play here.
Well, that's it for Titan Talk this week. OB26 will be out on Tuesday. If you want to check out anything coming out in OB26, you can head over to the PTS now, where it should be available all weekend for you to play around in jungle practice and make custom games on. And in the interim, if we don't see you during, the PTS, we'll see you on the Battlegrounds. We'll be back next week with more. Take care, everybody. We'll see you later. Goodbye.